All right, so thank you so much for joining me today for another practice. Today, the focal point is going to be around creating boundaries and staying connected. So the thing is a lot of times when we talk about boundaries, what we're doing is we're thinking that we're creating distance. There's a lot of rejection that is um correlated to it. Like we think sometimes that like, oh, like if I'm creating boundaries, I'm distancing myself. And really what's happening is that we're actually creating the ability to connect on a deeper level. So that is just a thought. And I'm going to break some of that down for you and to help, especially around the holiday season and Pesach coming, to see like how to improve our experiences in general and how to connect with ourselves in situations as well as with other people and the people that we love and we want to love. And yeah, so that's that. So, as always, we're going to begin with a little bit of breath work. So, I'm going to take a moment to just relax into your seat. So, just notice where you are now, what you're feeling. Lean back into that chair. So, kind of just situate your chair in a way where you have that support from your back, right? So, get the support you need from the back and really lean back into it. Notice how that feels for your body and drop the shoulders. So, you can kind of roll the shoulders back. That kind of opens up the chest area ever so slightly. And placing the tongue at the roof of the mouth, we're going to begin to breathe through the nose, filling that space within. As always, I mention it like opening windows in the morning, allowing that oxygen to cycle through you and flow and filter out any kind of dust or lingering emotion that might be just sitting around. So inhaling, notice the jawline, the ears, the eyes, the eyebrows. Fill that space within. And then softly begin to exhale, releasing through the mouth. Taking another inhale here, really taking your time, noticing what comes up for you, allowing whatever it is to be what it is without engaging. We're going to learn how to regulate our nervous system while there's so much going on inside of us, right? Because there's always a list, there's always something to do, there are always needs. Other people have needs from us, and there are also needs that we put on ourselves naturally. So just notice how that feels, what it feels like, and just observe. Do not engage. Inhaling through the nose, really filling that chest area and the abdomen, expanding into that space, reminding yourself what that feels like to feel full, and then softly exhaling, releasing that, noticing how the shoulders relax and drop. Inhaling one more time here through the nose. Notice if there's any areas in your body that become tense. So, where tension might arise as thoughts build, and you have permission to release that. Kind of even opening up your hands, like allowing them to kind of be flat on a surface rather than tightened. Really relax into that. Exhale. I'm going to come into the practice. So just notice where you are today. We're going to kind of start breaking down some thoughts and just kind of observe. And as usual, we're kind of going to do the thing we do always is go through some thoughts and then see if we can apply them on a practical level. So today we're going to address the concept of boundaries. So boundaries is something that for a lot of us we really struggle with. I'm going to give you a couple insights on boundaries, and then we'll kind of go into practicality. Now, the thing is, for everybody, it's different depending on your definition. Um, for some people, like, you have to ask yourself first, what is your definition of boundaries? And how that communicates into your world personally. And that could be different for everybody. So we're going to kind of go into a deeper dive of that definition. It's like almost going back to school and having a dictionary. Sometimes it's really good to kind of come down to the details so we can understand where we kind of alluded emotionally and where we can kind of peel back and really get the clarity of what it is and the utility, like how we use it, because a lot of times there are a lot of words that get thrown around. For example, like disorders or like narcissism or gaslighting. They're kind of these trendy words. And for some of us, we're not even sure what they mean exactly or when we're using them, right? People will say to me, I'm an empath, and I'll be like, what does that mean? It sounds good. And it might sound nice out of the mouth of somebody that said it, but the question is, what's the utility of it in our life and what value does it have when we communicate it? So that's why I always say when we find ourselves overwhelmed and stressed or feeling anxious, it's really important to take some time to understand what a definition is. Okay? Because once you have your definition, once you understand your definition, it's going to make it a lot easier to understand what you're trying to get. And also, it starts to clear the mind. Um, it's like saying you have a fear and then starting to break that fear down into bits. So, this is something you can do with somebody else in your life as well, but you can do this with yourself. It's like, tell me what is going on. I have a fear. Tell me more. And try to kind of break it down. And sometimes we're using a simple word to gloss over something that has a completely different definition. Um, and if we find that definition, it can just help find support within us and we can relax into our space. So, boundaries build connection. Boundaries aren't rejection, they are clarity. They help you care for yourself and stay close to others. This is really, really important because a lot of times our fear is that when we do set a boundary of sorts with somebody else, they might feel that rejection. Um, so when we reconstruct that to clarity, clarity can really help. So try saying, I love spending time with you. I also need a little bit of quiet after this visit. It helps me show up better next time. So finding the words to communicate to that other person the value, right? So what you're doing is you're communicating the value of your connection with that person as well as the boundary. The next thing is when you're formulating a boundary in itself is to validate rather than express. So when we are expressing, right? So it's like you validate and then you express. You can understand someone's world and share your needs at the same time. And that would be like saying, I know you're busy and I respect that. I also miss you. Can we talk soon? right? So what you're doing is you're validating that person's um like you're validating that they don't have time instead of saying you never have time for me or you're always busy when I show up. It's communicating like in a loving way of like, I miss spending time with you. Um and what that does also is it really helps. So validating their busyness, validating that their whatever life's work is important, right? And you can do this with an adult, a child. You can do it with yourself too. Like when we find ourselves in a space where we personally struggle, when we have so much going on, you can even say this line to yourself where you're like, I understand that you're busy, but I miss self-care. And that could be taking a walk, uh, listening to some music, just sitting for a few minutes, stretching, having a phone call. The validation is really important, but then the expressing is coming down into the sensational experience, reconnecting with ourselves. So asking yourself, what is reconnection? And most of the time, it is connecting the mind with the body. The next one is speak calmly and clearly. Use I statements. Stay in the experience, not in the blame. So this is like a line that you can use is I feel a little left out when I don't hear from you. Can we find a rhythm that works for both of us, right? So even when things are not working the way you want, you can speak clearly. Now the thing is for a lot of people, when we the reason the tone escalates is because we haven't set a boundary to begin with. So when you haven't set the boundary and you're pushing down the things that are important to you, you can do that because of two things. Number one, you don't have the skills to communicate to the other person or the tools to navigate around that. And the other thing is we just don't notice it. We kind of go into this, it's fine, you know, but it's fine built on top of it's fine, built on top of it's fine is not fine. So just notice when you say the word it's fine, or you have um, your own word. Um, I was talking to somebody the other day, and something I noticed is they say Baruch Hashem, and I could hear the frustration in their voice when they say Baruch Hashem. I didn't bring it up to them yet, but it is something that I'm going to highlight that they're kind of, instead of saying it's fine and I'm tolerating it, they're kind of attaching, it's almost like a door stopper, Baruch Hashem. So it's interesting because sometimes it's not even the words you're using, but the expression that you're attaching to it, right? So in that case, it would be using positive words, but then it's almost like creating a negative relationship with something that's supposed to be super supportive. So with that being said, is when we don't express ourselves properly, what ends up happening is, and if we're not aware of what's going on when it's going on, and we begin to push things down, a few things start to happen. We withhold. So if we don't create that boundary, we disconnect, right? So if you're not able to communicate or address whatever it is, then we naturally begin to disconnect because the way we survive that situation is by saying, okay, I'm not going to engage. And a lot of times we shut down. Now, I'm not saying get into the nitty gritty of stuff. I'm not saying argue with people. I'm not saying get into it. What I'm saying is pay attention to what your needs are. Pay attention to how you navigate. Pay attention to what is bothering you in certain situations or what you're sensitive to and how you go about it. So even before you start to navigate, take note. Take note of what is going on. So because and notice if like something flares up, right? So for some of us it's like if you've grown up and you haven't gotten, let's say, your needs met, if that's as a child, or and it depends, it all depends on who and what and how. So every single one of us have the dynamic of where we feel we lacked the support, and that could be present or it could have been the past. And then when we step into a situation, that sensitivity flares up. Now, everyone has their limitations. Not everybody's able to actually give us what we need always. And a lot of times not. But the question is what are you doing about it? In the sense that, like, if somebody can't give you what you need, how do you reconstruct that relationship where you're able to connect with that person and possibly get your needs met somewhere else, right? So it's really focusing on what is your relationship with that person or with that experience, right? So even if you're doing the cooking or the cleaning or the housework, whatever it is, what is your relationship with it, right? And I walked into an office and a bunch of women were sitting around my age, and they were like, "Oh, where are you up to when it comes to the cooking?" And they kind of were making a little bit of a big deal out of it. And I was like, you know what? It is what it is. It'll all get done. I don't make a big deal out of it. I'm not going to make it sound like more than it is. It's something we all do. We all have to do. We've all gone through it. And the goal is to enjoy ourselves, enjoy the experience. And I was having this conversation with one of them specifically, somebody specifically, and somebody else that was busy on the computer. She turned around and she goes, I love that attitude. It kind of really changes everything. So this kind of leads us into the next thing. It's being curious, not critical. For a lot of us, we go into the narrative, even when we have things to do, we go into it from a critical place of, oh, I have to do this. It's just like if you're doing it anyway, find a way to enjoy it. Find a way. And again, not everything we have a choice, but what we do have a choice is how we're going to approach it, right? And where we are in our life is a manifestation of some of the choices that we've made, right? So there are certain things in our life that we have no control over, but there are certain things in our life that we have consciously made some choices. And knowing that where we stand today is a manifestation of all those choices we've made. So be curious, stay open. Um, and that changes the entire experience. Simplify. Like really, really simplify. When we're critical, we're complicating things. When we're critical, we're also disconnecting. And it was interesting because I realized even for myself going into a loving relationship, um, what I with a person, right? A partner. Um, I was in a place where in the beginning of the relationship, I used to feel like these flare-ups of criticism used to come up in my body once in a while where I found myself wanting to critique. And again, I've lived alone for many years. So there was a certain survival mechanism that helped me kind of become more analytical rather than um, emotional and be connected to my body, which wasn't so good. But I surrender and it is what it is. But what was interesting was I found myself with these like emotional flare ups in the sense of I wanted to become critical. And I was sitting and meditating over this experience. Just give me a second. I was sitting and meditating over that experience and being like, why is my brain, right? I didn't say anything out loud. I just felt it in my body. And I'm like, why am I being so critical? What is that? And I noticed that that was kind of, again, back to a door stopper. It was almost like the lock on the door that wouldn't let me kind of go into the vibration of feeling love and nurturing and connect, right? So it was the thing that disconnected me from actually connecting. So it was interesting because once I was able to identify that mechanism or that switch, every time, and sometimes I forget because, like, our brain, when we're in that space of cortisol and there's a lot going on, we shut down and our perception becomes very, very short, and minimal. And our memory, we get memory loss. So I was in the place where I now know that, oh, if I get into this place with this person, I have to be open and curious to be like, what is underneath that? And underneath that was this. So above, right, on the critical level, there was an ego. And then underneath it, it would be, what if I need this person? What if I can actually love this person? What if I can be open, right? What if I can be curious? And stepping over that threshold really, really helped because I went from a place of living in my head to being in my body, and being able to enjoy and connect. So be curious, not critical, with the people in your life and with yourself. Um, the next one is giving what you want to receive. Um, for a lot of us, we're like, we'll wait till somebody else gives us something before we will give it. And if we kind of step back from that experience and we are aware of, like, if we want to see the world a certain way, we need to begin to create that. So treat people the way you want to be treated. Lead with that in hopes that you will get that in return. So you can love fully, speak gently, and still ask for what you need. Boundaries create space for honesty and lasting connection. And so just notice, like, when you're trying to create a boundary, don't wait. Like I said this a couple weeks ago, don't wait till things get too much. Like, don't wait till you max out. That's not the point. Come down. Notice when you're in a calm space, okay, what is bothering me now? And don't wait till it's too much. Um, some of the I just wanted to also, um, when boundaries have been breached or when we're in a place of like a um, of anger in general. So there's two things. If you notice a person that is angry, what they'll do is the posture, they will lean in. So a lot of times, like, the person that is frustrated will lean in. So I've talked about this in general when we're trying to balance ourselves. You want to stand with a straight posture. And what you'll notice sometimes is that an angry person will lean in, and then the person they're kind of yelling at will start to back up, right? Because what you're trying to do is disconnect. So the thing is, if we're trying to posture that as well, where we're in a space, right? Because we can't control what other people do. But these are interesting things to notice. When you're personally in a place where you might feel like you're frustrated, lean back, lean into yourself rather than try to lean into somebody else's energy because that can kind of feel you. So, in short, right? In short, thank you for participating in all of this. But in short, when you're trying to create a boundary, just know that creating a boundary means that you care about that person and it helps you stay connected. So, in your own self, it could be like making a health choice, saying, I'm eating certain foods so I can stay connected to myself. I'm going for a walk so I can reconnect, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the connection. So value the connection with yourself and then also with other people. Know that boundaries is not rejection, it's the clarity, it's a connection. So thank you so much for joining me in this experience today. I'll take questions now if anyone has anything they want to ask.